Good evening, and welcome to Law Talk, the show that brings the news, the Constitution, and the law to you each month. Tonight, with Mark Malachowski, I'm James Barrett. Mark, what subjects are we covering tonight?
Well, first we're going to talk about the IRS. Now, some folks are complaining or claiming that the IRS was unfairly targeting Tea Party groups by slowing down or denying them their tax-exempt status for 501Cs.
Okay, and when you say denying them their status, because there is a normal process where you have to go through and you have to apply to your IRS, because these are when you say tax exempt, they're allegedly non-profit and non-political. Is that the idea?
Well, what happens is, the wording's a little vague, but generally what it's come down in practice is as long as they're 50% non-political for some kind of social welfare, they can do some political activity. And so that's kind of how it's been interpreted up till now. But since 2010, a lot of these groups have been, and maybe a little bit before that, have been applying for their status, and they haven't been denied or accepted. And usually this thing takes 3 or 6 months to sort out at the longest. Some of them are a few weeks, but some of these have been going on for more than years.
Okay, from what I've been understanding in the news, what's happened is that because of the qualification process, normally you just submit your articles, you submit, who are the shareholders, the members, but you don't have to answer a lot of new questions. And I understand the scrutiny that the IRS put on these was pretty extreme. Now, did they target any specific group?
Well, the thing about this is kind of like disparate impact, right, analysis. Now, it seems like maybe 300 to 500 of these conservative groups were targeted, and possibly one liberal group was targeted. Now, that might be a coincidence, it might not. But what happened here is that they were asked all kinds of questions, including who their donors were. And one of these things about those 501Cs is you don't have to disclose who your donors are.
So, in fact, if you're asking who those donors are, you're effectively violating the idea of what this is all about, why this nonprofit came to existence anyway.
Well, the group would be in the bad position of they're promising their donors they won't disclose who they are. And if they disclose that, then they'd be breaking their contract with their donors.
Well, I also understand that it went beyond just asking who the donors were. I understand in some cases, at least from the testimony that I watched at Congress, was they were actually asking much more than that. They were asking the content of the prayers that were read at their meetings. They were asking, what is the content of what you teach the children in your schools? And what are your actual political motives for establishing this corporation, this nonprofit? And so, is there any one side of the political scale they were actually targeting?
Well, it looks like it was 300 to 500 conservative. Well, they
conservative.
had some keywords they were going after: patriot, Tea Party, anything that was concerned about government spending or taxes, and someone who improving America. So those are some keywords they were looking for.
Well, who instigated this targeting?
Well, the thing about it is, nobody.
Nobody.
It just happened spontaneously.
It was spontaneous?
Yeah, what happened?
Like spontaneous.
Yeah, there was like some IRS agents out for a walk, and they just decided, let's target some Tea Party groups. It was completely spontaneous.
Well, do you realize?
Or it might have been because of the YouTube video.
Oh, the YouTube video.
It might have been because of the YouTube. It's probably but more likely it's Bush's fault. It's probably Bush.
Yeah, President Bush.
Probably Bush.
I guess in 2010 it was still all his fault. But anyway,
yeah, it was Bush's fault.
What I understand was that this goes back primarily starting in 2010 after the election when the Tea Party
after the midterms, right?
where the Tea Parties played such a crucial role in ensuring that there was many Tea Party candidates that who were seeking election actually got elected.
Well, the one way you could look at it, in 2008 to 2010, we covered Ted Stevens and how he was framed and later on died, had a mysterious death, and so that made the filibuster-proof Senate.
Correct. There's 60 votes needed for Obamacare.
And then you also had the House controlled by one party, and the presidency controlled. So basically, at that time, President Obama
had it made.
Well, he was the most powerful man on the planet, probably the planet's ever seen. And then after the 2010 elections, he got trounced in those elections.
Well, he lost his vast majority in the Senate,
right.
And he also lost the Congress, which went both Democratic. It came to the point where now in the Senate, you cannot pass a bill because there's too many Republicans if it's a Democratic bill, so and so. Or
but I mean, anyway, he got trounced in that
Okay,
election.
so why don't we look at that as a kind of as a backdrop here? Now, after 210, the IRS mysteriously starts targeting these Tea Party groups that are seeking to grow the grassroots of the political campaign to ensure that the 212 election goes to more Tea Party candidates. So what actually happened?
Well, see, nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows how, like, say, for instance, how the IRS or how, you know, the, I'm trying to think of the lady's name who's in charge of the IRS union. Let's see.
Well, Lerner was in charge of the...
No, the National Treasury Employees Union is controlled by Colleen Kelly, right?
Right.
And she said, you know, that these extreme Tea Party elements and... you know, she didn't like them, and these IRS service centers had 48,000 union members of her union in there, and so she made some comments like that, and nobody knows how she got those ideas, right? But there were some kind of coincidences.
Well, I understand that there was 2 rogue agents in Cincinnati that worked in a small little district office that were the center of this entire targeting. Is that true?
Well, either that or it was the video.
Oh,
the guy in it was always the video. It's usually the video.
But where's the guy that made that video?
Yeah, he's in prison now. So, but I mean, it kind of harks back if you look at historically. If you look back a couple thousand years, there was an Emperor Caligula.
Yes, I remember he's been well known in the history.
And one of the rumors about Caligula is that he, when his uncle, or his great uncle Tiberius, was ill on his deathbed, Caligula took the imperial ring off his finger, put it on his finger, and went out to the balcony and proclaimed to the crowd that I'm the new emperor. And then word got out a little later that his uncle was starting to recover. One of the imperial guards smothered his uncle with a pillow.
There's no truth to that rumor. That's don't look. We got to move on. There's nothing here to see.
But nobody knows if Caligula really ordered his imperial guards to do it or if they just did it spontaneously. But there was some feeling that he might have given them a hint.
Well, then I have a question. What is that? How does that relate to where we are today with the IRS?
Well, here you got someone who's the most powerful person in the world.
Right.
And all of a sudden in 210, it looks like they might be taking this imperial ring away.
They got some problems in that
ring.
Yeah.
And so maybe he gave, well, they've got some acting commissioners of the IRS now, right?
Oh, I understand. What you're saying is, although he may not have ordered something to happen, by accident it happened.
Well, no, I'm not. Okay,
is that what you're trying to draw back to?
Right now we have a bunch of IRS commissioners, right?
Right.
And they're acting commissioners.
They're all acting.
You know why they're called acting commissioners?
Because they're all taking the fifth?
No, because they all have to act like that White House had nothing to do with the IRS scandal.
Oh, that's right. It's, they go to the Actors Guild for those commissioners.
So Obama might have dropped a couple really vague hints that he wanted this done. For example, in August 9th, 2010, he said, right now, all around this country, there are groups with harmless-sounding names, like Americans for Prosperity, which are the Koch brothers, right? Which are arch enemies of the Obama administration. You don't know if it's a foreign-controlled corporation.
Right.
So basically, a foreign-controlled corporation trying to influence U.S. politics.
Influence U.S. politics?
That's basically...
That sounds so bad.
It's like treason. You know, these guys are foreign influences are taking over the country.
That is treasonous.
So, and then August 21st, 2010, President Obama said, we do not know who's paying them. You don't know if it's a foreign-controlled corporation.
Right.
About these, 501Cs.
Right.
And then on September 16, 2010, he said, well, they're foreign-controlled entities, and millions of dollars of attack ads are coming from here. On September 28, 2010, President Obama says they're posing as nonprofit groups. On October 14, 2010, he says, behind these front groups, who knows who's behind these front groups, and they're a threat to democracy. Well, so those little hints may have found their way to people who, and obviously the IRS is pretty...
You're talking about those little hints may have found their way to IRS agents in charge of monitoring the 503 nonprofits, corporations.
Well, they might have found their way to Colleen Kelly, who runs these unions, who's already bragging that they got 48,000 of their union members in each of one of these IRS stations.
Okay. I can tell you now, Mark, we're heading to a large area to deal with, and we're going to cover that in our next show. So what's our next subject tonight?
Okay, so the next thing we have to talk about is Eric Holder.
Eric Holder, Attorney General?
And AP, the Associated Press.
Okay. From what I understand, Eric Holder and the Associated Press have a meeting in the roads is one of the points where our Attorney General was under giving testimony, and he said he had to recuse himself. But what he had to recuse himself for regarding the AP?
Well, you know, the thing is, I think he wrote a memo and distributed it as you're supposed to do when you recuse yourself. But then everyone lost it.
But everyone lost it.
Everyone lost it.
In fact, he said he didn't even remember where his copy of the memo was.
So there's a memo out there somewhere, and I'm sure they'll find it sooner or later.
But you know that Eric Holder was a federal, it was a former judge. And so if you would think if a judge is going to recuse himself, he would tell somebody. Did he tell anyone he was recusing himself to the AP story?
Well, they forgot that he told them.
Oh, they forgot.
Or he forgot that he forgot that he told them.
Oh, okay. So how?
But nobody knows.
I mean,
I don't know if I don't know if you watched the testimony, but Eric Holder didn't know.
When we're talking
many
about
times
the
in a row.
Wait a minute, hang on.
Or didn't remember.
We're talking about the story where somebody in the Justice Department decided they're going to tap some odd 100 phone lines at the Associated Press because they were in search of a leaker. Right. And funny enough, they didn't find any leaker. In fact, all they did was record phone lines belonging to the majority of the reporters at the Associated Press. So my question is, what were they looking for in that little incident?
Well, like I said, they also did something over at Fox where they went after James Rosen.
You're talking about the reporter, the White House reporter for Fox.
And he was working on a story, I think, about Northern Korea and about someone named Kim.
Yeah, well, that story would involve a person that worked for the State Department who made a comment, I believe, that through clandestine emails and phone calls with Rosen, talking about North Korea, how they would react, in fact, if we put more sanctions on them. But my question to you is, what's the big secret about putting sanctions on North Korea and how they would react when we have literally 40 years of how they react when we put sanctions on? How is that a secret? I'm not really getting that and why they would do that.
According to, I guess it was someone named Reyes wrote the affidavit, but
that would be Reginald Reyes.
Reginald wrote the affidavit, that went to get the warrant for this, went to the judge. Of course, it took several judges to find a judge who was willing to go along with it.
It was the third judge.
Yeah, third time's the charm. Third time's the charm.
Third time's the charm.
And then, so they did a little judge shopping. But anyway, apparently James Rosen was an aided or an abettor and a co-conspirator in the Espionage Act of 1917. So
violator.
So basically, James Rosen's a traitor, right? And so this is treason. And just like Caligula used to have treason trials all the time, apparently we have a lot of treason things going on here. We got the Tea Party are traitors because they're taking, the Kochs are traitors. James Rosen's a traitor, so there's a lot of traitors.
But why would the AP be traitors?
There
AP supported the administration the entire time.
But there wasn't anything in their there wasn't anything in their affidavit about being traitors. They just were associated with leakers, apparently.
Oh, I see. Well, I understand that it's not just that James Rosen was
a traitor.
His lines were his phone lines and his emails and everything were bugged and taken by the government, but his parents.
Well, they're traitors too.
Well, why would the parents be considered traitors?
Well, that's something that we haven't found out yet. But apparently they're traitors.
It goes beyond that, though, because wasn't it Attorney General Holder to sign the affidavit that swore under penalty of perjury that he was a co-conspirator and an aider and abettor to a federal felony?
Well, then espionage, violating the espionage.
But did he tell Congress that when he went in front of Congress?
Well, he forgot about that a bit because sometime after he signed that, I think it was many months or a year later.
Yeah,
he said that as far as the press is concerned, there was no potential prosecution that he knew of. So he might have forgot about it.
Oh, I guess he forgot that he signed the most far-reaching affidavit for a warrant, then judge shopped to get it approved, and then had James Rosen, all his lines of communication, all Fox News lines of communication, his parents' communications, all bugged and monitored because of somebody talking about North Korea reacting to sanctions. Is that where all this comes down to?
Yeah, it gets pretty interesting because, press freedom goes back to the Times-Picayune Publishing Company versus the U.S. in 1953, and the press is supposed to have, generally in the First Amendment, the freedom of expression and the freedom of press are all in the First Amendment, but there are some actual decisions that give the press some protections on this kind of thing.
The founding fathers, Mark.
Right.
The founding fathers said the press is what helps stop tyranny in its tracks. If you have a freedom of the press, you have the ability to educate the masses. And so if you're talking about now coming down on the press over something that's news that anyone in our studio would know if you talked about sanctions with North Korea, my question is, where is this going? What's next?
Well, we don't know yet because I think this is all going to kind of blow over.
There's nothing else to look at. Keep moving on.
I mean, just like
the event's all over.
I mean, I think Attorney General Holder's not really the IRS folks have the Hatch Act to worry about, right? Yeah. But Holder doesn't have to. He can be political.
Well, when you're going back to the Hatch Act, that's the act where you're never supposed to distribute any information that's ever provided to you to an IRS agent through the taxes of one of the citizens.
No. The Hatch Act is to start. I'm not sure I can pronounce it, but it's pernicious. But you're not supposed to be sneaky, incremental. Government agents or government bureaucrats, but not the higher ups. Of course, the president.
Well, it's not.
But
it doesn't lead to, no. It doesn't lead there.
But the bureaucrats and things are not supposed to be doing sneaky and gradual things to have political goals accomplished, right?
But wait a minute, isn't lying to Congress a reason to be cited for contempt of Congress?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's possible perjury. I mean, and there's two ways of looking at it. The stories are kind of incongruous. In other words, when we used to play Liar's Dice, when I used to go to sea, we have this. We wouldn't call it blank blank like you call it. We would say, that's kind of hard to explain, isn't it?
Oh,
so it's kind of hard to explain.
Kind of hard to explain
why he testified in Congress under penalty of perjury that he never
didn't know anything about prosecuting a reporter.
The potential prosecution of a press.
He would never be involved. There would be no potential.
And then at the same time, he swore out an affidavit to a judge saying that this guy is involved
a co-conspirator in
espionage. Basically, he's a traitor, right?
Okay, so but I got a question. Wasn't the Attorney General cited for contempt of courts under Fast and Furious for lying to the Congress under Fast and Furious, correct?
Yeah, and I never could understand.
But that wasn't really a lie.
No, I can't really understand why he wasn't taken into custody there, but they didn't take him into custody.
They could have.
But they didn't.
They would have had an issue. There's a very specific procedure. Now, my question is, do you think Congress has got enough cojones to see what they're going to do with this when he lied to Congress again? This is the second time in 2 years. It's blatant lies.
Well, I think that I doubt they'll try to take him into custody for contempt of Congress, or contempt of Congress, but they seem to be shying away from it. And I think it's probably I think probably this will end up in executive privilege.
Well, didn't George Bush's Attorney General resign under far less circumstances of this? That would have been Gonzalez.
Well, Gonzalez, they alleged that he had tried to get some.
No, they said he was terminating.
Selecting judges or terminating judges.
Terminating attorneys that wouldn't follow the Bush policy.
Right.
But anyway, let's leave that. What's our third subject tonight, Mark?
Okay, well, this we call Benghazi. Who cares?
Benghazi, who cares?
What difference does it make?
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 Okay,
but wait, this is about a video, isn't it?
No, look. Now, according to the Ministry of Truth.
Oh,
right?
the Ministry of Truth.
The Ministry of Truth, okay. Yeah. Mark Basley Youssef created a video, right?
Yes, I did hear that, but I understand that millions of people saw it.
Well, apparently, there's some reports about 300 people saw it.
300 people, not a million.
Coincidentally...
It wasn't played in Egypt on their main stage?
No. Okay. Coincidentally, the 300 people that were in Benghazi that day
they must have seen
saw that video, and that caused a spontaneous uprising.
And
that's according to the Ministry of Truth. And the Ministry of Truth went out and they said, this video caused a Muslim, because it was a Muslim slur, it caused an uprising, and Hillary Clinton told the families of, I
mean, when the dead bodies came back, they told the families on the runway how they'd get to the bottom of this.
No,
right?
They were going to get this video guy. They were going to get him.
The video guy.
They were going to get the video guy, and then President Obama went before the United Nations and told the United Nations that it was the video guy.
I remember
we're getting the video guy.
It's funny about this. That happened weeks after the event. So
yeah, and so that's and to this day that's the official. That's the
still
truth.
The official story.
No, according to the Ministry of Truth, that's the story.
Okay, but I got a question. There's been a lot of information that came out since then. In fact, funny enough, the CIA and the State Department knew the same day of the event that there was terrorists with rocket-propelled grenades, machine guns, and indirect fire to draw this. So I got a question. Were they all walking their dogs with APGs and machine guns, and they just happened to walk by the consulate that night, and by accident they started opening fire in an assault that went on for 9 hours? Is that what happened?
Well, see, the thing is, there's some confusion.
No, there's confusion.
There's some confusion because the fellow named Hicks, who was directly...
by the way, that would be Stevens's, Ambassador Stevens's second in command.
Second in command.
Yeah.
Okay, he said that he spoke to Hillary Clinton, Secretary Clinton, at 2 a.m. Benghazi time, the day after the attack, and he said it was a planned attack. He told her that, right?
Well, then why would she say anything about the video?
Well, that's why it's just confusing.
Why would Susan Rice go 5 days, 6 days later, go on all the major news programs on Sunday and say, oh, it was all about the video. Heaven forbid. It was about the video. Oh, we're going to get him. And then why has she never been called to Congress to answer, well, who handed her those talking points that said it was about the video?
Well,
they all forgot.
And Hicks said his jaw dropped when he saw that, that YouTube explanation by Susan Rice.
Of course.
He didn't believe it. Now, he complained about that. And
to who?
To his superiors in state, and he was demoted.
Yeah, I understand he was demoted, and he's on his way out the door.
Right.
And so he's become kind of a whistleblower on
right.
this one.
So he's a whistleblower on that.
Didn't he go before Congress?
Yeah, he did.
Okay.
And then the other thing is, but see, that's why it's kind of hard to explain. I don't know why Hicks is saying these things, because the Ministry of Truth, it says it's the YouTube video, and the Ministry of Truth is always right.
Well, that's true.
Okay.
The only problem is if there's nobody that will tell that the Ministry of Truth is not truthful, and that would be the media. If the media won't report that,
well, the media and the media is the Ministry of Truth.
That's right. They get the talking points every morning too at a conference call.
They are the media. They are the Ministry of Truth.
They wouldn't have the ABC, CBS,
and
MSNBC.
Also, now, there's another confusing element. Is Beth Jones, who's the assistant.
Beth Jones, who's that?
Assistant Secretary of State of Near Eastern Affairs said, quote unquote, the group that conducted the attacks, these are the Benghazi attacks, Ansar al-Sharia, is affiliated with Islamic terrorists. And that's, she
that's
said.
That's a party line.
That's what she said. That was timely said, and everyone knew this, but for some reason, I don't know why she said that, when actually it was the video. It was the video.
And I understand the person that made that video, and by the way, it was a very short video, 16 minutes or so.
Yeah, 14 minutes.
The person that made that video, he's in jail now.
For a year. He's doing a year.
You know what? It's for probation violation.
Yeah, because...
And you know what's funny about that? He's the only one that's had any... They've never arrested one terrorist or involved in Benghazi.
It's his fault.
They're done.
They're done. They're done.
They brought their guns with them.
Okay, and also Victoria Toussaint, who's consul for, I think it was a consul for Hicks or consul for...
Toussaint. Yeah, it was the counsel for Hicks. She's
okay.
the attorney for Mr. Hicks.
Now, she said it was a nation-state attack. In other words, Iran was behind this Benghazi attack.
Well, that's another rumor.
Right.
You got to be careful about that. There's nothing there. We got to keep moving on. There's nothing here to see. But that was, I understand that theory is that Iran is actually the one that these, by the way, the people that just happened to be out and by accident started this.
Yeah, spontaneous.
Actually, they had cover fire, which is mortars and large assault weapons, not the AK-47s only, but the rocket-propelled grenades. And so what happened is, there's a theory here that Iran was actually sending this in to stop the gun running that the State Department was doing out of Benghazi, which was supporting the Syrian rebels. And you know why? Because the Syrian rebels were overthrowing Assad, who is best buddies with Iran, because Iran funnels all their money through Syria to support Hezbollah in Lebanon.
Anyway,
so there's a whole little, when you talk about nation state, there's a little pattern going on here.
Anyway, the video is called The Desert Warrior, or The Innocent of Muslims, and it's by this Mark Youssef. He's the cause of the whole problem. They caught him. They're done. The first time that ambassador...
But he's not a nation state.
But the first time in 30 years that ambassador's been killed in the line of duty. And but it's because... And so why does anyone care? I mean, the video's taken care of. That's President Obama's story. He's sticking to it. That's Hillary Clinton's story. She's sticking to it. And everybody else who's coming up with these other things.
I got to tell you something.
Susan Rice is sticking to it, too.
Hang on. Immediately following the assault, the president of Libya went on news and said this was a planned assault by terrorists, well-armed, well-funded, and that the ambassador didn't have a chance. In fact, they had CIA, they had civil contractors, ex-CIA, and ex-SEALs that were there protecting the compound. And the question is, there were 33 people other than those 4 that died, and those people have vanished. Do you have any idea where those witnesses went? And those are all American contractors and aid support and everything. Where did those people go?
They're watching the movie. They're watching the video. They're watching the YouTube video. Yeah, they're watching the YouTube. And that's the same thing that happened.
What does the administration say about those people?
Well, that doesn't matter.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
What does it matter?
What does it matter?
We got the video guy. We got the video guy.
Only 4 dead Americans in Benghazi.
Okay, and the other thing is, like, why didn't you scramble the F-16s?
Oh, you know what? That's a whole other story. Somebody told them to stand down.
But what does it matter?
It doesn't matter.
What does it matter?
Why do you want to waste some fuel going to save your ambassador?
Why didn't you send some more Marines over from the Capitol? Because
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It's only 4 dead Americans.
It doesn't matter. So that's the thing, because it's a video.
And it is the video.
So the main thing is that, Susan Rice got in there and the president went to the UN and Hillary Clinton apologized to the Muslims and said, we're sorry that you took out Benghazi and we're sorry because we did this video. And I guess we had a comment.
Let's go back. Let's go back to the UN where the president apologized for this horrific video.
Right.
Weeks later, 2+ weeks later, after everybody in the administration knew that it was not a video. They knew the same day that it was not a video. But the problem that I'm having is, why is Benghazi being shifted off from finding the answers to, move on, there's nothing here to see?
Well,
I don't understand that.
The situation happened 8 weeks before the election.
Oh, the election.
And
we almost forgot about that part.
The narrative was that there was no more war on terror.
No more war.
We won because we took out Osama bin Laden, so we don't need any more war on terror.
Right.
And if there was a war on terror and it popped up again right before the election, Romney would have used that as a tax.
Oh, you mean that it might have been true?
Well, it would have confused a lot of people.
Confused.
A lot of people would have been
confused. Isn't it confusing when you don't get the news and you have to try and piece it together through? No, it's not.
It's not
do I have to watch? Do I have to watch Al Jazeera TV to get the truth?
So basically, Romney was put down as a right wing nut, who was like making up the stuff.
He's a rich man.
When everyone knew,
heaven forbid.
When everyone knew that it was a video.
Oh, it must have been a video. Well, I got to tell you, Mark, we've covered 3 hot subjects tonight, and although we can't go to the root of all of those issues,
it was the video.
It was the video.
Oh, it was probably Bush. Probably Bush
could have been the video and everything.
No, Bush did it. Bush did it.
George
Bush did. Yeah, Bush did. Yeah.
Oh, really?
His evil wizardry has no bounds. He could reach from years in the past.
Reach from the past.
Yeah, and make people do videos and all kinds of things.
Okay, but anyway, Mark, it's been a pleasure tonight.
Okay.
It's another good night of Law Talk, and I wanted to thank you for bringing us into your home tonight and letting us share some of the current events in the news. Thank you.